This week's Beyond Clean Expert Series episode, entitled How Does a Container Work in a Steam Sterilizer?, was written by Sterile Containers Expert Mike Strand, retired Regional Sales Director at Aesculap. An autoclave, or more commonly a steam sterilizer, is the conventional method of sterilization of medical devices in hospitals around the world. The speed to process, the relatively low cost, the safety for patient and healthcare worker, and the consistent and predictable end results make pre-vacuum steam sterilization the gold standard. Sterilization containers are one of several vessels that a hospital SPD can use to create the sterile barrier. Rigid containers may present several advantages, including protection of contents, durability and cost-effectiveness, heightened assurance of infection prevention as there are no wraps to be torn or punctured, and increased staff efficiency and throughput. So how does a rigid container function in a pre-vac steam sterilizer? When loaded, sealed, locked, and labeled, a rigid container is ready to be placed in the sterilizer. The pre-vac sterilizer will go through 3 phases in its cycle, and the container will react accordingly. Conditioning. In a pre-vac cycle, the dynamic air removal process removes the air and the chamber is heated. The rigid container, often constructed from anodized aluminum, will heat up to the recommended sterilization temperature. Exposure. Once the air is removed and the chamber is heated to the specified level to achieve sterilization, steam is introduced into the chamber. The rigid container will feature a filter mechanism, often a single-use cellulose or polypropylene material, which the steam will penetrate under pressure and surround the contents of the container. Exhaust. Once the prescribed exposure time is reached, the steam is removed from the chamber and the pressure is released. This is also commonly known as the dry time. The aluminum rigid container will begin to cool down, which is an important process so as to not allow for condensation to accumulate within the contents of the container, thereby presenting a dry load at the end of the cycle. When dried, the filter used in the rigid container becomes part of the sterile barrier system, preventing contamination until the next use. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Beyond Clean Expert Series. For more sterile containers questions and answers, you can contact Mike at mike.strand@aesculapusa.com.